Good evening, guys. Welcome to the discussion session, CAT analysis session. We've had the first two papers today. Most of you would have gotten some or the other kind of feedback about the exam. So, have you guys been talking to your friends? Okay. So, your first impression about the paper? Your first impression about the paper? Good or a bad paper? Okay, so most of you have gotten the right kind of feedback for the exam. Uh, Overall, if I look at the exam from an overall comprehensive perspective, the paper was an easier one. So vis-a-vis CAT 2011, 12, 13, the last 3 years, if I take an average difficulty level, the paper was definitely easier than the last 3 years. Overall, on a previous, if I go by a previous year basis. Uh, how easy was it? That's a subjective criteria. But the QA portion, the quant portion was definitely way easier. The DI was okay. It wasn't too tough, it wasn't too easy. LR was difficult, and verbal again was definitely easier than the previous years. So that is the overall perspective, the overall picture that we have. The good thing about the paper, there is a certain amount of standardization that has been followed. So we've got 34 quant questions, 34 verbal questions, 16 DI questions, 16 LR questions. On the breakup, RC, LR, and DI all have appeared in the form of 4 into 4. So 4 questions for a passage and 4 passages. Similarly, 4 questions for a DI set and 4 such sets. 4 questions for an LR set and 4 such sets. So that's a standardization that has been followed by the CAT test setters this time, which is nice in terms of consistency. So that is what they've done. Key takeaways right at the start, everyone got the same paper. So that's one thing. So there is no variation in the slot. Among the test takers, all of them have gotten the same paper. So that is one key takeaway. As far as the two sessions today go, that is the paper held in the first session and the second paper, both the papers are similar in structure. So the feedback that we have so far for both the papers in terms of question types and difficulty levels, both papers have been very similar and have given a similar feeling. The structurally questions have been there. Manu, I'll be honest here. I'll be very, very honest. If I say the paper would be the same as today, the pattern that we have, I don't think so. That's a fair assessment. There are chances that it might be the same. In all probability, it would be. You can expect it, but we cannot say 100% sure that it is going to be exactly the same. And I think you will understand here that I cannot comment on it. Unless and until the CAT guys do it, we won't be able to 100%, we'll be able to 100% confirm that. Okay. मनु तुम्हारा बुरा थोड़ी सोच रहा हूँ यार मैं तो ऑनेस्ट आंसर दे रहा हूँ ना इट्स अ डिफिकल्ट थिंग so that's one thing guys overall looking at the overall exam that is the overall feedback for the paper uh, uh, guys couple of quick questions Charu, in terms of difficulty levels, it's an easier paper. So the paper is slightly easier than the Bullcats and Bull Mocks. So that's a good news for you guys. Actually, you should feel happy about that. Guys, what I will do is I'll just explain to you how the session will be conducted so that you've got greater clarity as well. So that is something that you should know. What I'll do is I will go through The individual sections, I will go through that, and first we'll discuss the cont part, then the DI part, then the verbal part, and then the LR part. That is what we are going to discuss one at a time. We'll discuss the various topics that have made an appearance, the various topics that have not made an appearance, etc., etc., and the generic feel that you can get. Let's start discussing the two papers on a generic level, whatever information that I have till now. So I am going to discuss that. Nitin, your question, just let me read it. Nitin, 2009 to 2012, the question papers are not the toughest question papers. Actually, 90 to 2003, 2009 to 2012, and then 2003 to 2008. That's the difficulty level. I think in terms of difficulty level, the papers were they were not exactly the 1990s style. They were definitely not that. It's a paper like 99, 2000. That is what the paper had a few questions of. Actually, the paper was pretty unique, so you cannot really label it in any particular set. For example, the Conte was very easy, so that was your 90s style of Conte. The LR was difficult, so that's as difficult as the LR has ever been. DI was okay, the 2008-9 style, not too difficult. Verbal was again easily, so say something like the 99 or the 2000 style. So that is what the comparison you can make. Can't make it to any particular year, but different sections can be compared to different papers. Guys, I have to just point out one particular thing. You guys would have to bear with me. I'm suffering from an extreme cold right now, and that means I'm going to cough a lot in the middle. So you will have to bear with me on that. There would be times when I have to cough. I will just shut the audio, so you'll not be able to hear me. So that is something that you have to bear with me. You'll be able to see on the screen that I'm coughing, my lungs out. So please adjust with that. That's a small apology for that. Now starting with the Conte portion. Guys, one more thing. The order of discussion would be I will talk about the sections, the type of questions that have appeared. I will not be telling the questions that have appeared. I'll just be talking about the types of questions. Then the next thing that I'm going to move on to is your overall strategy for the section. The third thing that I will move on to is the overall questions that you should attempt for the section. So that is how we are going to move on. That is the flow of information that I am going to follow. At the end, I'm going to ask for questions for that particular section. You can ask me as many questions as you can. As far as the first section goes, one important change from the previous 2 years. Arithmetic has made a huge appearance in both the sections today. Huge appearance. It has not been seen in the paper in such a proportion. Almost in the first slot there were around 11 questions, as well as in the second slot I don't know the exact number, but I've heard they were 10 to 11 again. These were spread across time and work, time, speed, distance, averages, even a question on alligation, clocks and calendars, percentages, ratio proportion. So almost the complete arithmetic was covered. The good thing about it, most of the questions were very easy from arithmetic. So I think all of you should be really happy about that. That arithmetic, the portion that is coming in the paper, is easy. So my recommendation, yes, there were questions on APGP that I will count in algebra. So guys, just wait a minute for that. So my suggestion to you guys, strong suggestion, make sure you revise arithmetic in the next 5 days. So that is something that you should do. So arithmetic, easy questions, but the best thing is the questions were easy. They were not difficult. So I think you should be able to easily manage them. So that is point number 1. The second thing, number system questions were there, and again the questions were of a basic level. Number system was basic. So you've got basic concepts of number systems being tested. For example, the number of zeros, etc., etc. So these are simple conceptual things that are being tested by the exam. Remember, small concepts are being tested. If your concepts are clear, you'll be able to solve a lot of questions. Third topic, geometry. Geometry has definitely been there in the exam, and a decent number of questions of a decent difficulty level. The odd difficult question as well, geometry has seen. For example, arithmetic was very easy, but geometry was moderate to difficult. So that is something that you've got to keep in mind. Mensuration was absent from the paper in the first slot. Second slot, I'll just have information in a few minutes. Akshat, we'll try for it. I don't have information on it right now, but we'll definitely try to put up a paper. But I don't have information on that right now. Trigonometry, one question. The second thing that the last topic, algebra was there, 6 to 7 questions. It had questions from inequalities, logarithms, etc, etc. So basically most topics, quadratic equations, most topics were covered in algebra. Overall, no base system question today. Log was there, PNC was there, probability was not there in the paper. Yeah, log was definitely there. Shares I have not heard so far. Geometry was more about triangles, polygons and circles. So their properties based on that. So that is the geometry that we had. The normal 2D geometry, plane geometry, not the 3D geometry. There was even a question on coordinate geometry. So this is the breakup of QA. Vivek, I did not get your point. Important properties. I think we have also another session which will be based exclusively on Conte that Conte faculties would be taking. This is a general strategy session, so I'm not sure whether I will be able to provide specific Conte properties. I won't be able to do that. I'm a verbal faculty plus. Good thing, Jamin, about the paper, 0 English words, no vocabulary in the paper. So don't have to worry about that. Hopefully it is, not sure. Hopefully the projection is valid. Let's keep our fingers crossed. If I say it might be tough. Okay guys, fair enough. We've done one section, which is Conte. Now next, let's move on to DI. Okay, so now we move on to the second part, DI. Guys, I'll come to LR, I will come to scores, etc, etc. But let's get through the whole paper, then we discuss these things. Next question, next part, DI. Guys, there is two kinds of DI that we generally have. One is based on calculations, the other kind of DI is based on reasoning. The DI that we had in today's exam was reasoning based rather than calculation based. So there was an element of reasoning involved in DI. If you've got to have a sample of DI that was there, probably solve CAT 2003 to 2008. That used to feature DI which used to have a bit of reasoning involved. Don't get me wrong that there were no calculations at all. There were calculations, but limited calculations. In terms of the difficulty levels, one DI set very easy, one DI set easy, third DI set moderate, one DI set difficult. Which means if you think logically, they've given all kinds of DI sets. So for that, what you've got to do essentially is you've got to be clever enough in the paper that the sets you are choosing are the right ones. The easy ones can be solved very, very easily. So you should be able to attempt 8 to 10 questions in DI out of 16. 8 to 10 out of 16, 8 questions. If you solve them correctly, awesome attempt in DI. So that is about DI. Overall, if you talk about Conte and DI section, overall, if I look at the overall perspective, 30 to 35 questions with 80% accuracy, awesome attempt in this section. So that should get you through. I'll just confirm that for you, Praveen, whether there was a games and tournament set. I haven't heard it in the first slot. The second slot, I will just have to confirm that information for you. So for the second slot, I'm just waiting for the data to come in. Fair enough, guys. So overall, section number 1, you've got to do 30 to 35 questions with 80% accuracy. You will do very, very well in it. Now let's jump to section number 2. Section 2, verbal 34 questions, LR 16 questions. The bad thing about section 2, guys, the LR was tough. The LR, from whatever I've heard, one set was extremely tough. LR in general had questions which had a lot of variables. In both the sessions, they have had the same feedback. Both sessions, LR was the toughest out of all the areas in the exam. So was very, very time consuming. How many of you depend upon LR in the second section? How many of you depend upon LR? Guys, a very strong piece of advice: don't depend upon LR. You will have to solve verbal as well in the second exam. The verbal is easy. So in the next 5 days, if you can practice some RCs, please do that. The RCs are fairly doable in this year's CAT exam. They are not too difficult. So make sure you keep that in mind. Do not get stuck with tough LR sets. There is no point doing that, because look at it this way. Since verbal is easy, that means people will score a lot in verbal. So if they score a lot in verbal, then you will get screwed if you are only depending upon LR. Because anyways, even if you solve all LR questions correctly, which might be difficult to solve, so the questions are difficult, you might get stuck still. LR, you had the whole variety. For example, there are 6 people wearing six types of shirts, and they have 6 professions, and then you give data and you got to pick all those types of questions. So everything was there. In DI, guys, I forgot to tell you, in DI there was a set based on Venn diagrams. So Venn diagram based DI set is also there. So this is, I forgot while telling you. RC is the question. In the 16 RC questions, there were some factual questions, some inferential questions. I just confirmed the LR bit, the verbal bit. No para completion or sentence completion questions as far as the second slot is concerned. CR was there, guys. I'll just provide the English breakup, complete English breakup quickly. 34 questions, 16 questions of RC, 4 into 4, every passage had 4 questions. Then we had 4 questions which asked you the inference out of the paragraph, which is a critical reasoning question. What can you infer? Then we had 4 para-jumble questions. Then we had 4 para-jumble questions for 5 sentence type. Then we had 4 misfit sentence questions. So there are 4 sentences and you've got to identify the misfit questions, misfit sentence. So had 4 of those. That takes it up to 28 questions. Then we had 3 questions which asked you the paragraph summary. Then we had 3 questions which were grammar based, which asked you correct or incorrect sentence. So that's 34 questions. What was absent in the exam? Confusing words, pair of confusing words, absent. Fij, absent. Fill in the blank, absent. Para completion, absent. And most importantly, the topic that all of us hate, phrasal verbs, were absent. So that's, according to me, that's the best thing that can happen to anyone. Phrasal verbs were absent. FIJs were absent. So effectively, guys, if I think closely, effectively, a lot of the controversial question types have been thrown out. So a lot of controversial question types were not there in today's paper. So parajumbles were there, misfits were there, parajumbles and misfits were there, some grammar questions were there, but typically the questions which caused a lot of grief, phrasal verbs, etc., that were thrown out. Confusing words, yes, can be scoring, but then again, that means there is no vocabulary in the paper. So guys, next 1 week, next 5 days, you do not need to study vocabulary. So that is gone out of the window. So that is a little clue for you guys. What should you be doing in the next 10-15 next 5 days? You should be focusing on RCs. So RCs is a prime area of concern. Another additional point for you guys. RCs did not feature the regular philosophy or psychology that CAT generally asks. This year we had general articles in RC, so politics, political history, a little bit of science and technology, etc., etc. So the reading bit got simplified. The questions still were tricky. No tone questions, no title questions. Majority of the questions were inference. What does the author agree, disagree with, etc., etc. So those were the things that were asked in the RCs. Length of RCs 400 to 600 words. Majority of them are 450, 500 words. So Akshat, see, it's very difficult to say would it be the same. I hope it is. The first two slots were consistent. So based on that, I can extrapolate that you would have something similar in the next paper as well. But let's keep our fingers crossed. I won't hazard a guess here. 4 RC sets, 4 questions each. I hope you guys would understand that. I will not be able to say whether the pattern would remain exactly the same. See, obviously, guys, I also can't do that. I don't have that kind of inside information. So, Prashant, the distribution was 4 critical reasoning questions, inference based, 4 parajumble questions, 4 misfit questions, 3 grammar questions, correct, incorrect, 3 paragraph summary questions. So that's the distribution. LR sets, Manu, 4 LR sets, 4 questions each. So overall, if I look at the overall paper, this is the breakup, guys, of the paper. Now talking in terms of strategy, the second LR was very difficult, Harpreet. LR was the toughest in the paper, toughest part. No, one set exceptionally tough, one set easy. Overall, LR was difficult. Yeah, no strengthening, weakening, Praveen. Yes, you should do that, Akshat. Now, what should you guys be doing for the next 5 days? Yeah, we make the puzzle based generally what the kind of LR that we have. Within a tough LR set is when you have a lot of variables and little information given. So when the variables are a great number, then the set becomes very, very difficult to solve. Increase one level of variables and the set becomes difficult. So that those are the difficult ones. Now overall strategy for the exam that you guys should adopt, and what should you guys be following. No, there were easy sets as well. There was an easy LR set as well. You have to find it in the paper. Number one, guys, thing number one that you should do, practice all basics of Conte topics. Okay? Because there are questions which are based on basics. So since Conte has a lot of easy questions which are based on basics, make sure you practice them. Number two, practice diverse reading and try to solve diverse RCs in the next few days. Next 3 or 4 days, try to solve 15 or 20 diverse RCs, not necessarily philosophy, psychology, but other topics, history, etc. Number 3, make a small little strategy. What do you want to do in the paper exactly? It might happen that LR on 22nd is easy and RCs are very difficult. It might happen that way. So be mentally prepared to change your game at the last minute. We don't go with a fixed mindset that this would be easy. So based on the current pattern, we expect something similar but cannot be sure. So what you've got to do is practice the basics for Conte, practice RC sets, practice LR sets. Where should you practice RC and LR? I would recommend practice as many mocks as you can. Don't give the full mock. Okay? So in case you've got a lot of tests, you do not necessarily give the full mock. Only you can, which you've not given, pick up the LR and the RCs from those. So that is something that you should do. Next thing, in the next 5 days, don't solve too many mock cats. Won't help. Rather focus on the basics. Try to solve the basics and get the basics right, basic formulas right, basic tips right. That is what you should focus on. Ritvik, yes, if you've not solved the old papers till now, solve those. Yes, the sectional tests would also work. Mohit, you can use those as well. You have to keep that in mind. Sectional tests on Bullseye website will work, Mohit. You can solve those as well. These are the broad things that you should keep in mind while preparing for stuff in the next few days. Overall, the paper is easier, does not pose the same kind of challenge. Gursimran, fingers crossed. We hope the same remains the same. Jamin, obviously the time is on the lesser side. You see, there are 100 questions in 170 minutes, so you'll not be able to solve all 100. So that can't happen. Yeah, Charu, you should. I recommend you to solve a little 99 onwards at least. Manu, good for Ayush. But we've got to look at our own prep. But it's good for him, na? We don't really need to worry about that, right? Guys, couple of quick things here. Does not matter who solves how many number of questions. People will solve 100. It's not about what people solve. It's about what you want to solve. You've got to solve your own paper. Bilkul, absolutely bindas, yaar. Manu, 100% correct, yaar. That's the attitude that you should have. Okay, now I will come to the sectional cutoffs. 65 to 75 questions with 80% accuracy. 65 to 75 questions with 80% accuracy, you are through to the best institutes in the country. You'll have a very, very good percentile, 99 plus. So that is what you should target, 65 to 75 with 80% accuracy. So if you can do that, your score would be very, very good. And both the sections have easy parts, Conte in one, verbal in the other, have slightly difficult parts. So both the sections would be even. So around 30 to 35 each in both sections. So guys, now it's your turn. Any questions that you guys have, shoot. You begin with your questions now. Guys, any questions? Okay. Yes, Vivek, if you solve previous year questions, those concepts are being used. Sriram, 45 questions, a little less. Probably need to increase that. Jamin, right now, other than RCs, you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to do more than that. So don't have a problem with that. Manu, I'll be giving the paper on the 22nd, since this time the CAT people did not allow us to choose the date. Unluckily, I got it on the 22nd. So that's a little unfortunate part. Yeah, definitely, Sanyam, skip the tough questions, skip the tough LR sets. Try to spot the easy ones. They were very difficult to give that kind of percentile at that marks. Yeah, going by today's pattern, RCs would be a better bet. Gursimran, the similar to previous year papers, the sentence correction bit. Not too easy. Naveen, if in case you haven't, just solve 5 RCs a day for the next 5 days, that's it. Don't really worry too much about it. The only 3 questions of grammar, average level of grammar, average to difficult. Sandeep, if you do 30 to 35 questions, probably on the lower side, you should be through with 80% accuracy. Gaurav, I would recommend you do those, attempt all questions. For verbal, does not take a lot of time. You can definitely spot the easy ones and leave the difficult ones. So I will suggest read those questions at least, if not solve them. An average that would take around 8 minutes, Charu, not more than 8 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes. Mohit, 30 to 35 questions with 80% accuracy, good. Vivek, solve it as a parajumble question, try to make the order, try to make a mandatory pair, and then try to leave out the sentence that does not work. Generally, the difficult LR sets had variables, too many variables, not mathematical puzzles. Last year the LR was difficult, so yeah, you can to a certain level compare it with last year as well. Sanyam, no, we won't discuss the exact questions. There is a clause, there is a confidentiality clause. We can't discuss the exact questions. Yes, absolutely, Nitin. Basics are very important. No topics like ecofeminism. Akshat, I believe it was a calculation based set. No questions. Questions will not be disclosed. Divyam, even if you come to the center. Jasmine, see, the four DI sets that I've heard about, uh, generally one is easy, one is moderate, a couple are moderate, and one is difficult. So you should be able to solve two DI sets out of four easily in the given time. So you don't need to worry more than that about it. Moderate to difficult geometry. Average time, Anuj, for solving an RC, 8 to 10 minutes. Permutation combination level, easy. No mensuration. Number system level focuses on the basics. Algebra, moderate to difficult, guys. Time speed distance level, tucha, very easy. Game theory not there. See, it's Akshat, it's a relative paper, so really doesn't matter a lot. So you've got sufficient time, Nitin, to read them. So there is not an issue. Time is there in the paper. RCs were all interesting this time for a change, Manu. So they were based on science, etc., etc. So they were pretty interesting actually, vis-a-vis the previous years. Far more interesting. I think 5 to 6 questions they will. Yeah, just a question, trigonometry. 16 questions, 4 questions each. It's given in the directions itself actually. Yeah, you can do that, Mohit. Anything that you're not comfortable with, you can do that. Guys, it's an easy paper. You can, no tone-based questions. It's an easy paper. You can easily solve it. There's nothing much to worry about. Try to maximize your attempt. In the next 5 days, try to revise all basic concepts, things that you've studied till now. So do that. So study all basic concepts and you should be through. Sandeep, 65 to 75 questions with 80% accuracy, you are through. Works out to be around 165. So that's a safe number. 165, 170 is a safe number. Yes, you should absolutely do that. They will. A decent level, moderate to difficult. They haven't disclosed that, Vivek, so I wouldn't know. 30, Sandeep, 30 to 35 questions for both the sections. So guys, that's all the information that I have today to share with you. Shubham, that depends upon your strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, it will be shown in the review wala questions. It will be there in the review screen. Gursimran, given the paper this time, keep a balance of both. So 65 to 70 with 80% accuracy, that's the best advice that I have right now. Akshat, again, 90 percentile ke liye, I think it should be around 50 questions, 50-55 questions. You should be through with 90 percentile at least, 50 questions. Yeah, but the most special tip right now for the next 5 days, all of you just practice a meditation. The most important thing in this kind of a paper is, the most important thing for this kind of a paper is that you've got to be mentally calm. The skill is not being tested, your calmness is. You've got to be calm, relaxed so that you are able to spot the easy questions. There are a lot of easy questions in the paper. So if you are calm in the paper, you will be able to spot all of them and solve all of them correctly. So meditate, sit quietly, have that patience in you. That's what you've got to do. That's the best advice. And guys, at least practice once in this week. At least party once in this week so that you're absolutely fresh and absolutely ready to take the paper. Yeah, I will pass on the feedback and we'll try to come up with a paper for sure. So That's all for today, guys. I'm logging out as of now. I think I'll just about die in the next 15 or 20 minutes if I keep speaking. So before I die, I think I should leave and take some more meds. Thanks a lot and nice chatting with you. Uh, we'll have further sessions in the week as well, so try to attend them. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.